So we're going to talk about texting in the context of risk management. We're going to be short here, but there's a few things I would just implore you to use caution. For one, texting is a fairly informal form of communication, but it gets used a lot because it's well known. Everybody responds to their text, and they typically respond quicker than email or other forms of communication, right? So text gets used for all sorts of things. So it's informal, which also can mean it can sound less professional. Also tends to be short, and with it being short, it can also be misunderstood. I can't tell you how many times we've seen either agents in dispute with each other, or an agent with their client, or an agent with a lender, where there's a sensitive, important communication happening in fragmented, partial sentences that barely make sense. And if you had 5 different people read these sentences, you'd probably get 5 different A, understandings of what it means, and B, just tone. You can't get the sentiment from a text. It's just that you can get the sentiment wrong from a text. There will be a lot of times where maybe someone didn't actually intend this, but their text, the way they wrote it, elicited an unexpected response from the other side. The other side thought, well, why did they say it that way? That's so rude. Why would they do it that way? And this person didn't mean it that way, but that's how the other person took it, and there's just not a lot to go on. And now you have tensions escalated in a transaction that maybe make other negotiations more difficult. Maybe people take action based on what they thought they understood in this text, but it really wasn't clear. You want to be careful. It's just very easy, not just for the meaning to be misunderstood, but the sentiment to be misunderstood. You also want to be careful with your text, that if there's problems in this transaction later on, say the Department of Real Estate is going to investigate this because one side or the other filed a complaint, they're going to ask you for a complete record of all communication, including text messages. So you may be required to produce all of your text messages, which could include things with either a client or a lender or somebody else in the transaction where you were pretty unprofessional in the way that you handled things. And maybe it's not to do with the fiduciary duty, but maybe it's a really bad look for you and kind of creates a cloud on your professionalism, potentially your intent, potentially the quality of work that you've done, and how much you held to your fiduciary duty in this situation, all because of something kind of on the side that just looks really unprofessional. A good rule of thumb I was told a long time ago was, don't put anything in writing if you wouldn't be comfortable with it on the front page of the newspaper, on the top of everybody in your town's social media feed, or if you wouldn't be comfortable with a judge reading your own words back to you in a court of law. If whatever you're about to write, you wouldn't be comfortable seeing it in that context, then don't write it or rewrite it or handle it differently. Never text while angry, right? If you're mad, do not send that text. Don't even write the text. Take a walk around the block, take a breath, do whatever you need to do to just get your wits about you before you send an angry text. Those are almost always the source of just escalating a situation, making it worse. It's very rarely good for your client to fire off a text while angry. One other thing, this is half in jest, but really only half in jest, half seriously. Be careful about late night texts, especially after a glass of wine or a couple beers. We'll see sometimes that alcohol can cause problems, or other substances will affect your judgment. A lot of times, we haven't had a specific issue with this, but I will be candid that I've seen texts from clients, especially you look at the time, it's very likely that there's some type of substance impacting their judgment, and here's a text that comes through, and now you have to deal with that in your transactions. As an agent, as a professional, as someone who's managing your own risks, word to the wise, don't text while angry or while intoxicated. Hopefully that is helpful, gives you some thoughts, maybe some pause before you would send some of these texts, and pick up the phone and make a phone call. Send a long-worded email if you have to. Go have a face-to-face conversation with someone if necessary, but some of these important items, be cautious how you communicate them, and is text really the best use for that particular communication that needs to happen? When in doubt, check in with the manager. With that, hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you learned something, or if this helped you solve a problem, follow me for more.